Man, I was jamming to that. Hello, world. Welcome to another Devology Livecast. I'm Tim Russwick, and I'm with Rick Davidson. Today, we're going to talk about some cool stuff. We have assets lined up to show you. We have creativity stuff to show you. We have podcasts. We have marketing resources. We have all kinds of stuff to share with you. Some of this applies to Game Jam, some of it doesn't. But we're going to go through all the cool stuff we found around the internet. I scoured all of my bookmarks. I scoured all kinds of stuff. Rick wrote some things down too. He's got a few things.
Don't tease me for not being prepared. That's me every week. I didn't realize
But
there would be an exam today, Tim.
well, the beautiful thing about this is it's live, and we have all these beautiful people with us, and I'm sure everyone in chat has their own resources or links that they want to share. So feel free to do that if you want to share stuff while we're talking. Just tell us what it is and link to it, and we can pull it up and show everybody too. But if you don't know, I guess we can go ahead and start off with the one and only resource, because this is kind of related to what I'm about to talk about. But itch.io. Everybody knows this in indie game dev. This is kind of the spot to be. If you're a game developer, you can host your game on here. You can set up pages. You can play other people's games. You can do all kinds of stuff. If you don't know this, you should know. Main reason being they have a jam page that lists all of the upcoming game jams. And why is this relevant? Well, game jams are super awesome, but specifically, there's one game jam that we like in particular, which happens to be the GameDev.tv Game Jam 2022, which starts in 3 days, 2 days, 2 days, 22 hours. So I'm super, super excited for that. I'm going to post a link in chat. And one thing that I want to mention before we kind of go through all the cool stuff we have lined up today is that theme voting is open. We're voting on the theme. We need your input. We need you to vote. And whichever one of these themes is the most popular is the theme that's going to be the theme for the actual game jam. So, boom, there is the link to the form. Go ahead and fill it out. Pick one of your favorite ones. We've got 7 of them here. A day in the life of. It's not a bug, it's a feature. There's never enough. You are your own worst enemy. The more the better. Death is only the beginning, or it's not supposed to do that. And I'm super excited for all these themes.
I'm super excited for all the ones that I look at and I think, does that match a dog dragging its butt around? It's not supposed to do that. Am I allowed to sway the votes? No one's going to care what I say, do they?
I
But
did have you in mind when I
it's
was
not
when I was
supposed
going
to
through
do
some of
that.
these. A
Yes.
lot of these are designed to where they can be in any genre. They can work with any type of game, and you can come up with something that works for you and your whatever you want to make. Right? They're designed to be a little bit more general. We tried to stay away from themes that are a little more sci-fi, or they're a little more like lean into genres or themes or tropes. So we tried to keep it more general.
Nice.
Yeah. So hard to pick. Yeah. So another thing to note, these are actually checkboxes too. So if you like more than one of them, you can vote for more than one of them. But we're only going to pick one. So you can actually click 2 of them if you want. So yeah, don't vote for all of them though. We don't want to end up with ties, because then I got to choose. And then when everybody hates the theme, everybody's going to yell at me. So as much as I can blame you guys for the theme, it'll be better. It'll work out.
Yeah.
Yes, we meant to allow people to select more than one. I thought, because a lot of these are really great, and I think people should be able to vote for more than one. I think.
And because the Game Jam is starting this weekend, if you have any questions about game jams, if you're unsure about it, if you're still a little bit nervous, if you're thinking, I don't think I'll join this game jam because I'm not ready, anything at all, let us know. And there'll be good questions, conversations we can have for other folks who are watching this video, not live. Tim and I have talked about this a lot. The main thing is that it's all for you. It's for practice, doing a game jam, I mean. It's for practice, it's for experience, for improvement, it's for confidence, all those good things. And as I talked about quite a few times, if you have worked through a course and you know how to make, for example, a simple shooting game or a simple platformer, then make that in the game jam and make it with the same game mechanics so that you already know how to do it. Make it a little bit different. In terms of change some of the visuals or change some of the tuning values or make it a bit bigger or a bit smaller. You don't have to get there and create something that's completely different or new or novel or never seen before. So, and
Totally.
we're doing a 10-day game jam. And there's a lot of game jams out there that aren't 10 days in length. Some are one weekend, some are one day, some are 3 hours, some are 1 month. But the important thing is you don't have to spend the full amount of time. It's not
Right.
a competition. Game jams are not a competition. They're an expression of where you're at with your game development journey. And you might be 1 week into it, and you might be 10 years into it. So you just express yourself for wherever you are in the journey. And our particular community and a lot of damn jams, game jam communities are super supportive. So you don't need to fear people looking at you and doing a Nelson from The Simpsons. Ha ha. It's all very supportive. So there's my rant. You've got no reason to sit there and say, oh, I don't
Right.
think I'm ready. You're absolutely ready. If you can watch us talking about this nonsense, then you're absolutely ready to be in a game jam.
Making some video games. One last thing to do on the jam before I move forward. At the bottom, I've added this new beautiful featured content creator list. And this is for people like you. If you post YouTube
Like
videos during the
like
jam,
me.
or you're posting or you're streaming, yeah, Rick, if you want to stream, you can. Anybody that streams or wants to create content around the game jam game, message me on Discord or hit the contact page on our site, and you can be featured here. We'll feature your link here during the jam, which is super cool. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be playing the submissions afterwards, but specifically during the jam, I mean, if you're going to play this stuff afterwards too, feel free to hit us up. We'll add you there. But anything during the jam as well. Cool. So I'm going to post a link to the game jam one more time because we need to get everybody involved because this is super, super cool and I'm super excited. Should we move on and share some stuff that we found around the internet?
We should.
I think
Let's also
so.
figure out why Have Fun has popped up on the screen. There we go.
Boom. So I'm using beautiful Chrome tab groups, which are amazing. But they're actually kind of bad because it makes you keep tabs open, which uses like 30 gigs of RAM. Anyway,
That's what I'm wondering about because I'm the whole like more tabs are better and group your tabs. So yeah, as soon as you group tabs, that says don't close them, use them as bookmarks. Is
exactly.
it less efficient for your computer?
It's using 8 gigabytes of memory right now. Do you remember when computers with 8 gigabytes of memory were like high end? But now
I do.
Google Chrome is just like, you know what? I want 8 gigabytes of memory.
Yes.
So
The fact that you've got 470 windows open across your 7 browser instances could be something
that's
to do with it.
that's 115. It's not quite 470, but you
You have
know.
150? Oh my lord.
Okay, let's move on. So first things first, if you don't know about opengameart.org, you should. It is a resource on the interwebs that has all kinds of stuff, and resources, audio, sprites, tile sheets, all kinds of stuff. So you can just kind of find stuff. Here's a tile sheet, for example, that's got houses and all kinds of stuff, and it's free to use. Now, the cool thing about this site specifically that I like to do, just showing you guys how I use it, because everything kind of has its own license, and you got to be careful. You don't just want to download something and then not be able to use it in your project. So if I'm looking, let's say I'm looking for a spaceship, right? So I'm going to search spaceship on OpenGameArt, but then I go down here and I uncheck all of these licenses except for this CC0 license. And CC0 means Creative Commons 0, which means that Creative Commons 0 is a license that has no restrictions. So you can do whatever you want to it. It's completely public domain. So if you just keep CC0 selected and then you hit search, this is all stuff right here that you can use without restrictions. You don't have to credit anybody. You don't have to worry about commercial use. You don't have to do anything like that. This all has completely no restrictions. Looks like there might be an exception for NFTs, but you know, that's whatever. But yeah, so opengameart.org. I'm gonna post a link in the chat for this because it's super awesome. But that's how I like to use it because it's super useful.
Hey Tim, got a really good question while we're talking about art. A really good question here, asking, um, if I can find it again. Sorry, I just scrolled away and found it. It's about art. If you make your own assets and you need to, oh, here we go, from PC Cafe or Cafe. Do the assets I make for the game become available for others to use how they please or just to look at?
So you have to submit your source code for your submission in the game jam. but you own everything in your source code. Nobody can legally use it without your permission. So if you are paranoid about that, you can actually include a little license file specifically to one of these licenses, or you could just say nobody has any rights to use any of this stuff. This is all mine. That's totally cool. But the only purpose of that is so people can download your source and go through your code to learn about what you've made. You are not giving anybody access to use your assets. Just to be super clear.
Another question from Alistair Blackshaw. Just to check, since it's 10 p.m. here, will the listed resources be posted in a blog post after the stream? So obviously, this being live, it's also on YouTube, so you can watch this later on. Are we going to put this list somewhere, Tim, or does it exist somewhere at the moment? For those people who are sleeping.
I'm sorry, what was
the list of the stuff we're talking about in this conversation?
I'll copy and paste it all in Discord.
Okay,
cool. Into our live chat, but for now I'm just popping it in the chat.
Yep. Yeah. And just come back and watch the video and watch it 2 or 3 or 5 times.
Have it
on when you go to bed, just in the background.
Click the like button and smash it and do the stuff.
Hit the bell and then hit the other bell and then hit the bell that reminds you to hit the bell.
Spam your Facebook groups with it.
Text your mom. That reminds you to thumbs up. How did we get to this in society where every single video has to tell you how to use YouTube? Please hit the like button. Anyway, clearly it works.
Okay, next beautiful thing in the goodie bag, game-icons.net. I use this site all the time. This is like one of the greatest sites ever created. So not only do they have kind of every icon that you can imagine. So if I click on buildings in place right here, so I've got all kinds of building icons, right? But I mean, for games, one of the cool things is they've got like a bunch of combat icons. So like you need let's like sword, for example. They have all these sword icons, and you can just take these icons. Now, the cool thing about the site is that they do have icons, and you can use them in your game. But specifically, when you click on an icon, this is what's cool. So you can actually change all of this stuff. So you can flip vertically, for example. You can rotate. You can move it around. If you want to, cool. If you want to add like a plus or a minus symbol, like a bunch of question mark stuff. If you want to change the background, you can change it to, whatever color you want.
Change the color, Tim? Can you do that? Can you make it
you
green?
Can.
Is that possible?
You can. And instead of a radial background or radial gradient, you can have a diagonal gradient.
Diagonal gradient.
Whew. Yeah, it's crazy. Nice. You can change the bat or
what else can you do, Tim? What other settings are there in this tool?
There's so many settings. You can do so much cool stuff.
That is really cool.
And then not only can you can download it as an SVG, which you can edit directly in Inkscape or Illustrator, or you can get a PNG. So like, for example, this works really well for 2 things, like for like kind of placeholder programmer art a lot of times. So like if you just need an icon for an enemy, for example, you can just go enemy or just type skull or something. Like, look at this. You can just use this guy as a placeholder enemy, right? For a dude. You just pop him in there. Boom. You got a placeholder enemy. And you can customize all this. And then whatever you customize actually goes to any icon that you set. So you can kind of change the colors once and then keep going through icons and download them. The other part of it works really, really well for prototyping board games and stuff too. So if you've got a card game that you're making or some kind of game that's heavy on iconography, or even like a city builder where you got to like, click the build icon and then, do that kind of stuff. This stuff works really, really well. So highly recommend this site. It's super, super cool. Game-icons.
Look at that. I figured out how to use our thing. Hide it and then show it, and then hide it and show it.
Look at that. You're fancy.
Nice. That's a good tip, Tim. Thank you. GameIcons.net. Are you going to tell us about music at some stage and sound effects? You might not be ready to do that yet.
Look at me. GameSounds.xyz.
Wow.
That's the next one.
Game Sounds.
Psychic Rick.
XYZ.
So this is a site that every year for GDC releases sound packs. So you've got these giant packs from 2015 all the way to 2020. And in these packs are giant. They have ads. I hate ads. Go away, ads. But they have all kinds of, like Rick was talking about, dogs. Look at this. We have a bunch of dog sounds. We have a dog drinking. We have a dog fighting. We have a dog growling. We have a dog whimpering.
Did you say a dog drinking and a dog fighting? I was imagining like, oh, hey, you can't talk to me that way.
Draggy dog can be whatever you imagine it to be.
He's definitely an alcoholic, draggy dog.
There you go. So those are all the GDC packs, which are massive, but there's also these monthly packs. There's a bunch of public domain stuff. There's Kenny's sound pack in here. There's all kinds of stuff. Now, the downside of this site is it's kind of hard to navigate. They have a search powered by Google. So like if I wanted to search for a shoot sound, for example, I can see the different pages that mention shoot sounds, but like it's just not as clean as it is. So like generally it's just you can download large libraries, but you kind of got to sort through them yourself, which is a little complicated.
Massive. If you want to fill up your hard drive completely with sound effects, then it's pretty easy to do so. Those GDC sound effects are just like, whoa. But part of the challenge with that is you have to go through, listen to them. It takes time to do that. And just sort of get rid of the ones you're never going to listen to. So you're not filling it up, your hard drive up with a whole bunch of random, unless you've got tons of space, and who cares?
Yeah. So those are the sounds. Now, my personal favorite for sound effects is freesound.org. And freesound.org is exactly what it sounds like. It's freesound.org.
And just another reminder that's, free and royalty free and Creative Commons. You're allowed to make sure you always have a look at, do you need to give credit? Need to give credits, because we don't want folks out there getting upset or feeling mistreated or just us doing the wrong thing. You got to be careful about these things. Make sure you credit where credit is due. And just a question on that, actually, Tim, sorry to break your flow here, but that's what I do. What's your advice for how to credit? So if someone's in a game jam, do they just put it on their itch page? Do you need to put it in the product itself? Do you need to have like, welcome to Tim's, roller derby retro flare game?
Right.
Credits for the sound effect I use in level 3 of the game is like, do you just shove it on a page somewhere?
Two parts to that. One, the first thing I would actually recommend is find stuff that you don't have to credit for. Not because you don't want to give a bunch of people credit, but just because it gets really complicated to keep track of who did what and when. For example, if you use a Creative Commons sound effect from somebody and you like the sound effect, but then you mix it with another sound effect, is that still the sound effect? Do you still need to credit? Like, what if you forget that you mixed it with that sound effect? You know what I mean? So generally what I do, same thing I did on Open Game Art, sort by CCO. I go in freesound.org and I search something, and then I click this Creative Commons 0 button right here on the right, which again gives me stuff that is completely public domain that I don't have to worry about licenses for. And I don't care if there's less stuff there. That's the stuff I work with, right? Just because. Now, if you are using stuff that you have to credit, I would either have something separate on the menu, list it on the store page. Like if it's a game jam game, most people are fine with you putting it on the itch page, right? It doesn't actually have to be in game, so you can just list sound effects by this person, that person, that person, boom, 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 just list it all out there. Generally you want to include links where you can, just out of support for the creators. But like I said, having made dozens of games, I have no idea where so many of my sound effects and stuff came from. And even if I save the names and stuff and the file names, even that stuff gets moved and changed and modified. And it's like, it's impossible for me to keep track of, especially over years of not touching it. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend CCO where possible.
Hey, Tim, I see there's a rare treat for us. We have Ben in the chat. So if we have any Ben jokes, then now's the time. All these things I say about Ben when he's not listening, and now I don't have anything clever to say. So, Ben, you can come join us if you want. You can jump in. You're probably getting ready for bed, actually, isn't it? It's pretty late where you are. But welcome. Good to see you here. And people ask about Ben. Where's Ben? What's Ben up to? But here he is. So if you've got anything you want to ask of Ben, he's in the chat if you're watching live at the moment. Ask him some questions or send him your photos of, okay, I was going to say something inappropriate. As soon as Ben comes onto the scene, my mind goes in the, Ben, this is what you're doing to me. I was about to say something that could have got me in trouble. Anywho.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, Ben, people ask about you all the time. We're glad you're here. Okay, so that's the basics of licensing. You can put it on the itch page. Someone suggested a text file. That's also a good alternative. But generally, I'm telling you from experience, it does get really complicated to keep track of licenses. So wherever you can, reduce the amount of licenses that you have to keep track of. So those are assets. Does anybody in chat have any other websites or assets or anything you want to share with the whole squad here? Rick, you don't have anything you want to share, do you?
Well, when you say it like that,
you didn't come prepared, did you?
In terms of, well, here's a question. Aside from, I know about Kenny's website.
Oh no, that's a good actually one to bring up.
Did we also, you and I played around with, what was the tool that Kenny creates? I've forgotten the name. Forge, Asset
Forge.
Asset Forge. I was really excited about that, but to be honest, I haven't really used it a lot. But if you're looking for an easy tool to make art assets, Asset Forge is one. Another one that I actually created a little training course on a while ago, a free one. I think it's still on the GameDev.tv website. Is Magic of Voxel. So I think that's a good one just to have a look at. And, you need to play around with it for the next day or two just to get a feel for it. But it's so easy to create some 3D art that looks different. It looks like your stuff. So if you just need, need a character, you need a building or need a turret or need a something, the little course that we've got on our website that I teach you how to use Magic of Voxel, the version's a little bit out of date, but it's pretty similar. Software and engines usually are pretty similar. It's pretty good. There it is there. Thank you, Tim, for showing us that. It's pretty good if you want to just get up and running. And stuff looks really cool. I like the Magic of Voxel style. I like Voxel style in general. It's super easy to get up and running to make some assets. So
yeah,
Magic of Voxel is one. And then the Asset Forge that you were starting to look at was another one.
Yeah. So good news on this. Kenny's actually reworking this.
Yep.
It's not out yet, but he's working on a new version, basically. So it should be fun. But this is not free, just so you guys know. The other stuff we mentioned was free. I think this costs $20.
Yep.
But this is one of those really easy tools to kind of knock stuff together. It's like Magic of Voxel, except this has a bunch of pre-made parts. So it's got windows and doors and stuff like that.
And you make 3D assets, but they can be used for 2D in a 2D. I'm remembering this correctly, aren't I, Tim? You can take a snapshot of it and then use it as set it up as a sprite if you're making a 2D game.
Yeah, you can. Kenny also has another program called Kenny Shape, which I've used. It's a fascinating little program. Basically, what it does is you draw pixel art, right? And then you put numbers on top of the pixel art of how deep how many cubes deep it goes, and then it generates a 3D model based on your pixel art.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can make like a sword in a 2D plane, but then assign 2 and 3 numbers to the depth of the different parts of the sword, and then end up with kind of these voxel creations, which is interesting. And this is only $4. I've used this before too. This is really cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and you know what? It's a lot of what we're talking about is game jam stuff. It's good to make your own games, but I think in game jams you can give yourself permission just to sort of do something quick and easy and cut some corners. And that's what indie game development is all about. I think cutting corners. And we've talked about for the game jam, I'll be participating in the game jam with my daughter. She's 10, and so we're just going to make whatever comes to us, and it's not going to be a game we're going to try to sell or promote. It's just going to be a game for fun. And I noticed Ben mentioning before he's trying to convince his son Toby to participate in the game jam as well. So I know Toby is at home tinkering on making games and following tutorials and building stuff. And hopefully, maybe if we all cheer in the chat, encourage Ben and Toby to come join the game jam with us, maybe they can do a submission as well. And on that, if you're sitting there and you've got kids, and I think a lot of folks are looking for opportunities to hang out with the kids. That's what I'm looking for, but also to show kids it's okay to do something if you're not super great at it yet. And it's okay to put it out there publicly, and it's okay to get a bit of feedback, and it's okay. It's the participation and the putting yourself out there that's super important. So, consider if you got some kids at home, maybe not, they don't necessarily have to do all the programming with you, but maybe they can help you jump into Asset Forge and make some assets for your game. I think that's really cool as a parent to have your kids help you out with that kind of stuff.
Totally. So that's all of the assets that I've got. I've got some creativity stuff here I can share. And this is stuff that maybe people don't think about when they think about game jams or stuff like that. But this first one here is kind of an article that I found a while back with a scamper technique for creativity. So with game jams, one of the bigger assets that you actually have in a game jam is the idea, right? Like, how do you come up with a cool, interesting idea? And if you're starting out, you probably want to stick with an idea that's kind of been tried and true and done before, right? You want to stick with something, like a platformer, run and jump, that kind of thing. But if you've done a few of those and you're like, you know a little bit of programming, you probably want some kind of creativity tools. And Scamper is a really cool method because it's basically an algorithm, or what do you call these things?
Technique?
No, with the
life
letters
hack.
and the words.
Synergy.
No, Ben loves
amalgamate.
With
Acronym?
the acronym.
Sorry, Tim. It was only when you said with the letters I was actually trying to pay attention to what you were talking about. Up until then, I was just being an idiot and trying to put you off. So that's my job here.
I know Ben loves acronyms, so yeah.
Ben
so
does
this.
love acronyms.
Okay, so substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. So if you take Scamper and you apply it to every kind of mechanic in a game, I guarantee you have unlimited ideas. So if you take a platformer and you list out all the things you do in a platformer, right? You run, you jump, you fight enemies, you do whatever, and then you go for each one of these. What happens if you substitute run? What happens if you combine run with something else? What happens if you adapt a run? What happens if you modify a run? What happens if you put the run to another use? What happens if you eliminate the run? And what happens if you reverse the run? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
We already
have
a ton of ideas.
Every single one of those, I was thinking, instead of the dog running, the dog could.
What could it do?
Maybe it could drag. What would that be? Substitute? Yes. Combine. Well, combining pleasure and pain. Adapt. Okay, I won't go through the whole list. But I blame chat.
I think that's the opposite of creativity, when you force every single one of these to mean a specific thing.
How dare you,
do the opposite.
Ruswick? How dare you shatter my dreams with your fancy acronyms?
The technology we have now. Yeah, so I'm going to post a link to this in chat. I know it's an article. It's not really like an asset, but this kind of changed my creative life because this is, you create so many interesting things when all you got to do is just apply Scamper to whatever you want to make. And
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And this is just a reminder again, as we're going through all these things, is look to change what you're doing by 2%. So if you're working on a game, and I'm starting to try to come up with some ideas for gameplay mechanics before we start the game jam, which I think is okay, to say what sort of genre am I interested in, or is it going to be a platformer, is it going to be an open world game, what have you. So I'm trying to work through that. And I've got an idea for a mechanic that I think would be cool, but I haven't done it before. So it's like, I could end up taking 9 out of the 10 days just to figure out how the heck to make this thing even remotely interesting. Completely wrong way to go about a game jam. So if I can't sort of figure it out before we start, then I'll scrap it and just do something I know for sure that I can do. But the way to succeed is to not do what I'm trying to do at the moment. So I'm kind of living the opposite of what one should do. I'm trying to come up with something new that I've never done before. You want to just tweak what you've done before by a little bit. So, I like the adapt and the modify as opposed to the completely reinvigorate.
Yeah, but it's interesting because modify or combining, like you could combine the run and the combat for a platformer, right? And then you've got a platformer where you have to run into enemies, or you can't run into them if they're certain colors or things like that, right? So you can use the same skill set that you already know, but you can just use this as a wrapper to kind of modify your ideas a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, that's Scamper. We will post a list of these in Discord, just if everybody's wondering. Next up, we've got a color.adobe.com, which is super, super useful. So
This is a good one. I like this one.
yeah,
I don't know. Although full disclosure, Tim, I think it looks pretty. I'm like, woo! It all swings around, and all these are complementary. But then, do you have any tips on how, after you've diddled around with the colors, how to actually get there and go, yes, this is a good one? Like the, I know this is a much bigger conversation about color theory and how to pick your colors. And I know you've looked at in the past, we've looked at how to look at other games that you like, but for me, it's infinite, and I don't quite get the. So maybe you can bring some wisdom in terms of the tool is
honestly,
awesome, but how do you look at you sliding stuff around? Like, is that one better or that one? Or that one's
whoa,
good. That one,
yeah. I mean, you know what sucks is like honestly, my main tip is to not use this and use something like colorhunt.co
color hunt. I
and
like
just
that.
steal
Yeah.
somebody's color palette. Like legitimately, just find one that you like and just because they're way smarter than me when they come up with colors. I don't know how they do this, but I know, for example, these colors all look really good together, right? Like, okay, you can make like a cool little rainbow game, or this pink probably pops so well on this gray, right? Like, this works well for complementary colors. So I don't know how I get rid of. I have too many thingies. I don't need this many thingies.
What
I need
about
less
triad?
thingies.
Or I guess
I
if
try,
it's
but it's. I have way too many circles though. I don't know what's. I don't know how I get rid of those. But oh, RGB. Okay, you can change the color mode. This is good when you already have some kind of base colors. Professional artists and stuff know how to use this better than I do. I don't. I just kind of like steal people's color palettes. The other thing too that I will Google, like if I wanted to make a farming game, I would Google search farming game. I would find a screenshot that I really, really like this, for example. And then I would use this as a color palette for my whole game. So I would copy this into Photoshop or something, and every time I need a red, I would like pick off the barn or off the tomatoes. Every time I need a yellow, I'd pick off here. And so I would just, because I know this looks good and I know these colors are well chosen, I can just steal colors off of other people's color palettes. And then occasionally what I'll do is I'll take some of those colors and I'll put them into a tool like this if I need a purple and there's no purple or anything like that. So yeah, that's something to colorhunt.co is also something I'll link to.
color hunt. Oh, I've still. This is my bad. I've still got an old thing up here. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, Tim, have you mentioned before about our Game Jam starter kit that we give away for free? If someone's in Unity and you just want a starting point for a particular type of game, then there's a couple of starting points in here, and it opens up a broader question of what code can you start with? Are you allowed to start with a template? Are you allowed to buy asset packs and use asset packs? Are you allowed to use free asset packs? So if you go to the asset stores, whether it's Unity or Epic, Unreal, there's free stuff you can get. Are you allowed to use free stuff? What are the guidelines around that?
So you can use anything freely available. And the reason why is you have to upload your source, and we can't have people distributing a bunch of paid software around, right? Because of good old licensing stuff. So our starter kit includes a racing game, a platformer, a couple other basic stuff to get you going if you want to just make a basic game. There's a bunch of different, I think there's 4 different basic genres to choose from, and it has the basic code and assets working for all of those. So feel free to download the starter kit and start with one of those projects if you don't really know where to start and all that stuff. And that's completely free to use. Everybody has access to this, so you can use this in the game jam, no problem. You can also use this for other game jams too.
If everyone can access it, then it's okay. But if only you, or if there's some special way to access it, then it's not okay.
Exactly. That's the rule.
Awesome.
Okay, moving on. There is a thing called...
Hey, Tim, I want to acknowledge that you've prepared for this really good. I know normally we don't prepare for stuff. And we just kind of, I don't know, bring our knowledge. But you've got links and stuff. I mean, you've got tabs.
Well, thank you.
Dude, you've put some thought into this.
It's an illusion because really, everything that I see cool,
take the compliment, Tim. Just take it
I
and
just
run.
save it
Take
all.
it and go.
So going through all my bookmarks was where I found all this stuff. Um, so this is a thing that allows you to modify images with AI and create some really weird stuff.
Oh yeah, that is
But
cool.
sometimes you create really cool stuff. Specifically, this thing is so good at making faces. It's like ridiculous at making faces. Like this is all AI generated art. So it doesn't fit every game, but it's kind of awesome. So it's kind of complex to use. So I'm just going to kind of link it and not go through it. But like,
Sorry, what's it called?
artbreeder.com. So it takes machine learning. It can basically generate things. You give it a bunch of source images. So like if you give it two faces, it can then take the similarities between those things and create a new face for you. So especially if you need something like portraits or characters for your game, it's really, really good at that. If you can feed it a bunch of existing faces, because then it'll have no problem creating faces. The other thing it does really well is kind of creates stimulation for creativity. So like if you're like, oh, what does a unicorn mixed with a mermaid look like? And then you dump those into the machine learning thing, it'll create something for you. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So like this, for example, is actual characters created in Artbreeder. And like look at those. Some of those look real, right? Like
Yeah.
those are amazing. So like yeah, and this is AI created art, which is terrifying but also amazing.
And this is because some of this is coming from a starting point. Like again, if you mash two things together and come up with a different thing, do you have any copyright issues to worry about there? I think
so. It doesn't use the source files physically. It finds patterns and things within those files and then generates its own image. So it doesn't actually use parts of those images. I'm sure in the future, in our dystopian world where everything's chaos, somebody's going to get sued for using machine learning for copyright infringement on patterns. But as of now, it's completely legal.
Cool.
Yeah. So if anybody else has any links for creativity or for creating stuff like this, feel free to post them in the chat. I would love to find more stuff like this because this is super awesome. It's very unique. Yeah, but feel free to share them. So that's the creativity section. I have a podcast section here, which is not really going to help you in a game jam, but there's a lot of lonely time that comes with working with game dev sometimes. And my favorite thing to do while working on a game is listen to a podcast. It doesn't work when I'm like hardcore programming because it's like I really wish people in my ear would be quiet so I could focus. But if I'm working on art, I'm iterating. If I'm you're in my ear right now. If I'm doing some less mentally exhaustive stuff, I like to listen to podcasts. So a couple things. Eggplant, which used to be the Spelunky show, like, is a really cool podcast. These guys talk to designers, and they are designers themselves, so they go really deep into why things are the way they are. So they talk to developers, and they say, "Oh, you got this feature. Why did you do it that way?" Which I really, really like. Designer Notes is by Soren Johnson, which it's funny because the other day when Tim from Hooded Horse was on, he said he published Old World. Old World was developed by Soren Johnson. And so I was like, you publish Old World. Can you tell Soren Johnson I love his podcast? So that's why I did that, because this is one of my favorite podcasts of all time. So this podcast goes through game developers like Sid Meier's and some legendary people like the creator of Far Cry and like Splinter Cell and all this stuff. And they go through the journey of every game they've ever created in their career, and they talk about like why they made those decisions and stuff. So recommend that one. And this last one is Keith Bergen's podcast. Keith is a really cool kind of thought leader in game design, and he's really cool because he articulates a lot of design rules, and he puts them into patterns, and he names them in a way that like is easy to understand. So like there are a lot of concepts that exist in game dev, like push pull or rubber banding or stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff doesn't have names, right? It doesn't have like conceptual creations and triggers and all that stuff. So I recommend this podcast too. So that's kind of stuff to do while you're doing other stuff. Anybody else have any podcast recommendations or anything like that? Even if they're not game dev related, like stuff that do well, you know?
I think everyone's listening today, as opposed to offering their own tips of places and things, etc.
Sounds like it. What's the best resource for draggy dog artwork? Probably Rick.
Well, you know what? I don't want to give it away just yet, in case it doesn't get done. But my daughters and I are looking to use papercraft to create our game. So to have actual, trace out a thing and then cut it out and then make the legs move like little puppets in paper, and then take photos of that, and then to bring those in as sprites into the game. I've mentioned before, I'm not using Unity, which is the engine I know best. I'm using Scratch, which is what I'm in the process of. I've been teaching my kids Scratch and teaching it at my daughter's school just every now and again, and creating a course on Scratch. So I'm really getting into Scratch at the moment. And so I figured if I can use Scratch to make a Game Jam game, then other people can use that as well. And because it's block-based and drag and drop, it's super easy to just get something up and running really quickly. So, so using Scratch and bringing in assets into that, I think is going to be cool. Making our own assets using paper and real-world photos. It's kind of like claymation, but without the clay, if that makes sense. So not so much a resource, but that's what I'll be doing, because we're not really 3D or 2D artists, with any sort of speed. And I think it'd be fun just to make real world stuff. So there's the approach that I'll be taking.
Andres recommended GDC as well. They've got a whole list of videos and stuff here from talks on developers. I listen to these like a podcast too. I pop them on and don't really watch them. I just kind of listen. So that's definitely a really good, interesting thing you can do. Papercraft is interesting. Sorry, I had to get that on my brain, but I love unique, interesting art styles that are non-traditional. They just make a game feel more stylistic.
I think so, because I think there's a journey we go on when we're learning art. Say you're learning 3D art, you're going through one of our Blender courses. You need to do the basic stuff, and then the slightly better stuff, and then the slightly, when I say better, I mean more complex, right? More complex, and then you start to work your own personality into it, and you start to get creative. That takes a while, and if you're later on in that process, fantastic. You're ready to go and make your own assets and just dominate the game jam scene. If you're earlier in the journey, then sometimes trying to make it, like, quote unquote, look good is difficult. Like, you can't make it look, the stuff you've got on your screen there looks awesome, but I couldn't do that today. That would take me forever to do. But if you get there and do something really stylized where you're not trying to hit a particular style, maybe you're doing stick figure characters, and there was a whole, probably 10 or 15 years ago, there was a whole slew of games that really went doubled down on the stick figure characters. I thought it looked awesome. I liked it. Obviously, there's the voxel look. If you just want to have, the cubes, we're talking about magic of voxel before. For me, I'm trying to do something, real world and take photos of it. So I agree with you, Tim. There's something to be said for indie game developers trying something just that's not the standard, let's make good looking art the traditional way, but to do your own sort of approach to it.
Stylized can be very lo-fi too. Like it can be pixel art. It can be like low poly with certain lighting, right? Like it's one of those things that creativity over just hard work can kind of pay off. Okay, so this next section here is marketing, and granted a lot of the stuff doesn't apply to Game Jam games, but there's a few things that I want to highlight. Maybe we'll skip some of the stuff that doesn't apply to Game Jams, but it was just kind of sitting in my bookmark, so I pulled it up anyway. But one of these is GameAnalytics.com, and so this is more of an advanced one, obviously, but it is super simple to implement. I've downloaded Game Analytics. I have this installed in my games. The plugin that they provide you is super easy. They have one for Unity, Construct. They have one for all the engines. and it's kind of simple to implement. But the cool thing about game analytics is that you can install it in your game, and then you can publish it, and you can see what levels people play through, how long they play, like where they fall off, what gets them. You can't tell what gets them frustrated, but for example, if they all get to the boss and then they all quit, like, okay, you've got a problem at the boss. So this really helps you understand your game a lot better. And one of the things that really helped me is in one of my Game Jam games, Barn Battles, I had game analytics installed, and I noticed it was the highest playtime out of all of my other games. And so I actually chose Barn Battles as a my next commercial project, which became Battle Barn Tactics, because of that playtime that I saw in the game analytics, which I otherwise wouldn't have known. So it's definitely a tool I think is worth looking at. The other one, this comes into play after you're publishing, right? So one of the things about game jams, let's go to, I'll show you some game jam stuff. So if we go to, or let's just go to GameTV Game Jam 2021. So let's look at our game jam from last year, and let's look at the submissions. So there's a lot of games that people submitted last year, right? But if we go to their itch pages, some of them have created have like their page, right? So some of them put work into their page. Other people have not. But it's really cool to see the people that have kind of put a lot of work into their pages, because it goes a long way on people wanting to play your game and wanting to give you feedback. Like if it's clear that you put a lot of work into your game jam page, then you definitely want like people's feedback, right?
Question for you, Tim. I know you've showed us this before. What's the tool that you use to make GIFs?
So funny thing you ask, because that was my next point.
No.
It's almost like you can read my mind or something, Rick.
Well, I can't quite see your tabs, but maybe I should look at those before I ask my question. So I don't.
So I said all of that to say this: because you want to make a really, really cool page, one of the ways you do that is you make a GIF. And there is an amazing tool called easygif.com, which I highly, highly recommend. I'm getting a lot of Lowe's ads. They really want me to go there.
This is the part when you're on a live stream, you get a bit nervous, because if you've gone and searched for something, it's like, oh, and 3 days later, it's like, burp, up it comes.
So video to GIF is one of their tools. They have it looks like a dozen tools here. So you can convert any video to a GIF. And then within this interface, you can move on to all kinds of options that they have. So you can rotate the video, you can resize, you can reverse, you can cut it, you can crop it, you can change the speed, you can mute it, you can merge it. But then on top of that, there's a bunch of other stuff that I really like. Optimize is one of those things I use all the time. So the problem with generating major or GIFs most of the time is that they end up being like 10 or 15 or 20 megabytes, which is just stupid for like a little image that's just going to flip through a few frames, right? But if you pull them into the GIF optimizer, it'll take it from like 25 megabytes, sometimes down to like 3, which is super cool. And it just goes through and like figures out which colors it doesn't need to recreate in every frame and stuff like that. So it's super cool. It also has a bunch of effects and stuff and exporting options. So like WebP, for example, is a video format that a lot of sites use now instead of GIF. So that's pretty useful. So if you just have a normal video that you want to export, but you can export your GIF, you can optimize it, and then you can actually embed it here on an itch page, as simple as implementing an image, right? And then you've got a cool little animated version of your video. I'm sure somebody did it, but I can't find a game that that included a GIF on their thing. I can show you my I do GIFs on all my stuff. So like Photopea has a GIF, Sendoff has a GIF, the world's first 1D game has a GIF, even Barn Battles has a GIF. This was the original game that I made. But you see how much cool this is if you have an animated image like right on the page. Yeah. Like it just makes it so much like, oh, I get what the game is now. Like even more so than the screenshots, right? Like I get what's happening, just super simple. So yeah, so optimize or easygif.com is super, super, super valuable.
Easy.
Can I say GIF instead of GIF? Yeah, I can say GIF if you want. That's cool. Yeah, so
I think you and I discussed this on one of our live streams a while ago, the whole GIF versus GIF, people saying it different ways. It finally sold me when we talked about what does the G stand for. If it stands for graphics or graphical or something graphic related, that's a G at the start, graphic. So therefore it's a GIF. And so finally I'm like, finally it makes sense. Got it. Because I didn't know how to
there's
say
a lot
it
of peanut butter fans that really want to change how the word sounds, and I'm not really on board for that philosophy.
Sorry, peanut butter?
You're in Australia, but so you might not know this.
Well, I don't.
But
Is this a thing? Is this a meme in the US of A? Where
this is peanut butter.
I didn't know that was a brand.
So you see what I'm saying? This is how you spell GIF, but GIF
yeah.
with a G is a different word.
That is
Right.
totally. There's some Game Jam game ideas in this conversation, I reckon.
I'm sure there is. You could do GIF
I'm making
versus
a game
GIF.
to do with peanut butter called GIF. So then that would mess people up, wouldn't it? GIF, and then you make a GIF of your GIF. I like it.
Make a GIF of your GIF and all this stuff. While we're here, there's a bunch of marketing stuff that I think probably doesn't apply to game jams. We can go through it if people want to go through it, but it's probably not super relevant. We should talk about some engines, and I'm not trying to push any philosophy on anybody, but there's this engine called Construct 3, which is pretty awesome, and it has a free version, and you can make some really, really cool stuff with it. So
I love how the big sell is, and wait for it, it's got a free version. Stick that in your Unity and smoke it. Wait, Unity's got a free one. How about that? Unreal. Oh no, wait, Unreal as well. There you go, Godot. No, I just teased.
If you like Unreal Blueprints, or you like Bolt, or you like Playmaker, any of that stuff, you will love the visual scripting in Construct, and it's super simple to use. So definitely recommend that.
Some pretty dope games that are going on there as well. That looks cool.
Yeah, there's some really cool.
Now it's all 2D, right? In Construct 3.
Well, they've got a 3D thing, but it's kind of a bootleg 3D thing.
Yeah.
It's like you load in a 2D image with 6 sides to it, and they can make a 3D square. But that's about it. The other thing here is Godot.
If someone hasn't, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying, Rick?
I was going to say, I'm not sure if someone hasn't used any of these engines you're showing now. Not sure if a couple of days before the Game Jam is the right time to start, but kudos to you for giving a shout out to your engine of choice.
Well, I gotta do what I can to increase the amount of people that use this.
That game on the screen right now, that is giving me some hella flashback, my childhood kind of memories. Like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. I did some horrible acts of violence that I do not care to admit on camera in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is what I mean by 3D. You can do that's about the extent of it, is you can do cubes.
Yeah.
But you can make some pretty cool stuff with it, right? Godot is another free engine that's super powerful.
Oh, sorry, you go. Got a lag today.
We do. We have a little bit of lag. What were we saying, Rick?
I was going to say, game jams are a good opportunity to try out something a bit new, a bit different, and something where you're not sure how it's going to go. So if you are looking for a reason to kind of dabble with a new engine, then sometimes having game jam is a reason to do so. And it doesn't have to be something that is super innovative or amazing or great. As I was saying at the start of our conversation, you just get in there, give something a bit of a go, and see how it turns out. Sometimes you need a reason to give it a try.
Well, speaking of that, I downloaded Unreal the other day, and I was super surprised at how easy everything was to just hop into one of their projects. Like have a third-person game just completely running. Okay, it's running really slow now, but
you're asking for it. Oh, I'm just going to open up.
I'm just going to open up Unreal on stream,
as well as the 200 browser tabs you've got, and Unreal. And streaming. Your computer's going to be.
I'm fine.
What are you doing to me?
I got a decent machine. It'll be fine. A lot of the engines are getting way better at UI UX stuff, and I was just saying I was really impressed with Unreal because I've used Unity. I still think Unity, I'm sure once you know where everything is, it's easy to use. But you could literally use that and say that with like rocket scientists who are working on robots for NASA. Like once you know how the robot works, it's fine. You can modify it, So I'm fascinated by Godot. The interface was simple, and Unreal, the interface was actually simpler to me than Unity was. So this is coming
And
from
of
somebody
course,
that primarily
if
uses
someone's
Construct.
interested in dabbling in a new engine, certainly for Unreal and Unity, and soon Scratch, we've got courses that you can jump into and just get up and running with it. So,
Possibly
you can learn
Construct.
these things.
We'll see.
Hey Tim, can you just jump on GitLab.com? Just a brief conversation about that. So, we used to use on the team, we used to use GitHub, and we transitioned to GitLab. Just had some other features. I think because to have public repos and to have larger repos and have private repos, there's a few things that were more advantageous. So, for every one of our programming courses in particular, and for some of our other courses, for every single lecture, we have a commit where you can go and see the project. You can go and download the project, access the project. You can see what's changed for each lecture, which is really useful. And hopefully through that process, you've kind of seen GitLab a little bit, or GitHub, or just source control, and played around with it. If you haven't used source control, then for a game jam, I think is a great time to start using it, because the opportunity or the possibility of making a mistake is much, much higher than when you're taking your time and you're going through a more gradual process. If you're in a bit of a rush, you might get there and say, oh my goodness, the last 2 hours of what I've been doing don't work. It's broken my thing, or it doesn't make sense, or I don't like it, or it doesn't fit with what I was trying to do. Now I have to go and rip it out. The better way to do it, I think, is every half hour, 10 minutes, big change, small change, new feature, whenever it is, just go and make a commit. And that's why I like using GitLab. So you set up a repo at the start of what you're doing, and then you can make a commit and then easily just roll back to it. Or you can compare that one to that one, or you can merge. So there's a little bit of playing around with source control to get familiar with it. We do have a source control course. Ben being on our, I don't know if Ben is still with us, or he's gone off for his snooze, but there's a course we've got that's all about using Git, GitHub, GitLab. I think it's GitHub in that course. But using source control, highly recommend it. I used to use GitKraken, SourceTree. I'm just looking to see if
I've
I've got
used a
that.
few of those. I prefer visual interfaces from like command line interfaces. Do you know if
Yeah.
GitLab has one? I think they do, right?
No,
GitKraken has one. GitHub has one. I can't quite find it. But I use it so infrequently that if I used it a lot more frequently, I'd probably remember, but I forget the commands and I forget the process for it.
I use SourceTree, and connecting SourceTree with GitLab's pretty easy.
Okay. What is SourceTree? Let me look that up.
SourceTree. So SourceTree is that visual interface that allows you to.
Oh, it's a general one, but it's only for Mac.
You
Oh
just
no,
tell
it's
it
for
what
Windows.
to look at. You just plug it into GitLab.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, well there you go. You don't need one specifically for whatever thing you're using. You can use one program and then have it go to where you need it to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that makes
Ben's
sense.
got some clarification for us in here. Git is the protocol. That's a good way of describing it. GitHub is the hosting, or GitLab is the hosting.
Gotcha.
And there are plenty of front ends such as SourceTree.
Yeah, I do a bad thing and I save all my stuff to Dropbox, and then I use the Dropbox file. It saves every version of every file basically, so I can roll it back to a previous date if I need to. But I know that's super messy and not what people should do at all. But for Construct, it doesn't save in like a tree of files. It saves in like a single source file. So it's I think it's more useful for that. But for stuff like Unity and Unreal, we definitely want to use something like this.
Yeah. And obviously you don't want to be learning new things in the middle of a game jam. A couple of points here about, don't go and start using source control for the very first time. But you know, it's a couple of days before the game jam, or even if it's not for this game jam, we could be talking about future game jams. If you get yourself set up and you have an awareness of how to use source control, I like it. I mean, I'm a little bit lazy. I may or may not use it if I'm in lazy mode, but honestly, there's a safety to it that if you haven't been in a game jam, you might not realize that at some point you're going to mess something up and you're going to say, why did I mess that up? But not just mess it up that you make a typo, you mess it up in a way where you've introduced a bug and you just can't find it and you just don't know what's going on. And it's going to be easier to do the extra 20 minutes of work that you're going to lose if you roll back than it is to keep trying to debug and find where on earth this new issue is that you've introduced. So,
yeah, that's a really good point. Something I just remembered is this thing called Photopea. Not Photopea, like, you know, back behind the alley, like Photopea as in the vegetable.
Back behind the alley, like there's a whole it's a whole underground scene of what are you into? I like Photopea.
So Photopea is literally it is like a one-to-one copy of Photoshop in the browser with ads on it, basically. And it's super cool because you never know, like, I mean, you never know when you just got to use Photoshop for whatever. And if you don't have a license of Photoshop, Photopea is definitely a good thing to use. Matter of fact, it's so easy that every once in a while, it's faster for me to go to photopea.com and make a quick change than it is for me to open Photoshop and like do all the hardcore stuff. So this can actually open PSD files as well, which is super useful.
And then you just open it from your open it from your computer and then save it to your computer.
Yeah, and then you just file save as
online. Yeah, cool.
Yep. And it's everything is in the same place. The windows, the select, the tools. Like, I don't know how they haven't gotten sued by Adobe, to be honest, because it's like a one-to-one.
Can I just say that I am really excited and just so pumped to the wrong word, but just super excited. Anytime you go on a website with ads, I'm just waiting for some weird ad to pop up where it's like, okay, what's Tim been browsing? So
let's see. Love in the Jungle on Discovery Plus. We got the Food Network.
You're using your safe browser, aren't you? You're using your other account.
No, I'm confused because this ad is very relevant. The Lowe's and DeWalt stuff is very relevant. I saw one for diapers earlier, and listen.
Oh,
my stuff
is there something? Is there something you want to? Should we?
Some of the stuff seems more random than other stuff, but
I don't know. It's listening to your conversations. Yeah.
Notion is one of the ads now.
Notion, yeah.
So, Ultimate Fighter on ESPN, that one's way off. I hate any form of boxing or UFC. So,
yeah. So
I lose money on that one.
I'm brainstorming things like project management tools and communication tools, but I think folks are probably like, obviously communication, people would use Discord. So we don't really need to go through, we use Slack on our team. Discord is great. So communicating is excellent in terms of writing up notes or sharing notes or any documents or any of that stuff. Like all the Google suite is great. Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets. So you don't really need much in regards to that. Mind mapping, you're probably not going to do a lot of mind mapping, but you can find mind mapping tools pretty easily. What's the one that we use?
Miro.
Miro, Miro. We use Miro for these things. It's really good. Good for whiteboarding, sketching things from a collaboration point of view. It's pretty useful.
I think I've used like something like Draw.io or something like that.
Yeah.
That was really cool and free. By the way, I downloaded a bunch of those on iPad the other day, and I really hate all of those solutions because so many of them are like free and they'll let you make stuff, but then they will like restrict you from saving it when you try to unless you pay or something like that. But they never actually tell you that, so it's like whatever. I really hate the free to play stuff. It just gets crazy. Somebody in chat brought up Inkscape. I cannot recommend Inkscape enough. I really like Inkscape is amazing. This is what Inkscape looks like when you modify it and do all the stuff. This is actually every file in my entire game.
Wow.
This is
Take a
all of my
screenshot.
art.
Take a screenshot, kids. You
This
can have all the stuff.
all of my characters, all of my icons, all of my iconography, all of all of the abilities.
So is Inkscape similar to Illustrator in terms of the workflow, or is it different?
It
Obviously,
does what Illustrator does, but the interface is drastically different. I
right.
think Illustrator
I
is
find
super
Illustrator
confusing.
unusable
It is.
when you've
It's
got a lot
stupid.
on the screen. Okay, I want to modify this line, and there's 300 million lines to
No,
in my
literally Inkscape is like, okay, I need a square. Sweet, I've got a square. So now I'm going to take this square, I'm going to make it orange, and then I'm going to modify it, and then I'm going to move this like this. Oh, I'm going to make a bend here. Boom. Like that's literally, it's so, I mean, that's the basics of Illustrator too, but like the tools are just so just complicated to use. But like I draw everything, like here I've got a bunch of buttons, right, that I just draw out. I've got like interfaces and characters. I do animations in it too. So like I'm animating stuff for the cyber ducks. Inkscape, I can't recommend this program enough. It is one of the best free tools. It's like the blender of 2D art, basically.
Can you also jump to Libre Sprite? Libre Sprite. This is the software we used in our pixel art fundamentals course, and it's, A Sprite is kind of the more well known one, but it costs a bit of money. Libre Sprite is nearly identical because it was a fork from when A Sprite was open source. But it's great. You can just get in there and start creating stuff. It's got good onion skinning to do animation, all the bells and whistles. So if you're wanting to make a pixel art game and you haven't played around in pixel art too much, or you don't have a tool of choice yet, then Libre Sprite, you can be quickly up and running. And if you wanted some of the fundamental tips and tricks on, curves and lines and shadows and dithering and all that kind of stuff, then check out the course that Reese and I created.
Trying to organize all this
Tim,
stuff.
How many more resources have you got? I want to jump in a question that we had before.
I think I'm out. I have a few things that don't really apply to Game Jam stuff, but they're marketing stuff. So we can skip those, I think.
Yeah, let me see if I can find my question. So
yeah, so much stuff here. So Trello is a good one too if you need some kind of planning and task list management. Trello or Asana, both of those are really, really good. Evernote is pretty good too.
Okay, found it. Yes. Okay, got a question from Strad. I've been a web developer for 10 years. I'm looking to transition finally to the game industry. I've been struggling to decide continuing with my C# background or going C++. Suggestion. So, okay, there's a lot to unpack in this, and the whole changing career, having skill set. I personally, if you want to be indie, if you want to have your own indie studio, make indie games, make money from games that you create, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the engine, the language. It matters that you can make a good product that people are interested in, that you can market well, it can have remarkability, it can stand out, and that you can make it in an efficient way so it doesn't take you 5 years to make the thing that you could have otherwise made in a shorter amount of time. So I think that point of view doesn't matter. If you've got a C# background, then hoorah, Unity, C#, boom, you've got a massive advantage. Go for it. So that's that part of it. If you're looking to get a job and you're approaching studios and you're saying, hey, give me a job, I'm good at a thing, then look to see what studios you wish to work for and then go to their job descriptions for the sort of role you're interested in and see what they are asking for. So if you're looking to work at a big AAA studio as a gameplay programmer, then I'm sure having C++ skills and knowledge and ability is going to be a huge advantage, maybe even a requirement. If you're looking to work in a studio that uses Unity to make their games, then you don't need to bother with C++. C# is going to do what you need to be able to do. And so that's one part of it. The other part of it, I think there's so much overlap between any programming language. If you're good at C#, if you've got competency there, then picking up C++ is going to be not as much work as you might think and not too difficult. If you're interested in Unreal, using Unreal as an engine, then by all means jump into our C++ course and and make that transition into Unreal and C++. So that's a long-winded way of saying it doesn't matter. Just make games. Get in there, start making games. Find what role you want in the industry, and then find the specific skill set that role asks for, and then to double down on that and get really good at that.
100%. A lot of times you don't know what you don't know when you're going into something like this. So you overanalyze the decision before you have all the information. It's just kind of useless, right? Like why are you overanalyzing a decision you don't have all the information for? So just kind of diving in and learning a little bit about what you're making can really help you make a much more informed choice. And Rick, like you always recommend, trying each engine for a week or two and seeing how that works out is like the best way to choose an engine. And I 100% agree with that, because there's so many, like sometimes it's like there's no engine that's better than another engine. There's engines that are better at another engine at certain things, right? So like it just depends on what your workflow is. And sometimes an engine is just more compatible with your workflow than other engines. That's how I ended up on Construct 3. It's not that Construct 3 was one of the best engines out there. It's that it was more compatible with the kind of workflow I wanted at the time. I downloaded the Android SDK and I was like, what is all this stuff? Please just let me make a game. And Construct 3 was there for me, So something to keep in mind.
And this is why I decided to teach a Scratch course. Scratch has a reputation for being for kids, but if anyone's very, very new to programming, I think it's amazing because you start to get some of these concepts in a way that is safe. I know sometimes hopping into Unity or Unreal, it can feel daunting. You can feel vulnerable. I don't know how to do this. It's overwhelming. There's a lot going on. So it does take time and patience to work through Unity and Unreal. In a few hours, you can make something really cool. Like all of our courses, we try to start with, a quick win. Let's make something small and interesting. So you can absolutely do that. But Construct 3 and I think Scratch as well are in a different category where in Scratch in 5 minutes you could have something interesting up and running with zero knowledge on how to do things. So and then I think you can learn those simple concepts of how does a variable work and when should I use it and when do I modify it, and how does a loop work and when should I use it and when should I not use it, and what's an if statement and how should I use it and when should I use it. You can learn those concepts in just a very precise way. But as soon as you get into a broader, more powerful language or engine, then, those simple concepts often come with a whole lot of other, well, you need to know this, this, and this, which is always our problem when we're trying to teach C++. And Sam and I have had many conversations about this. Okay, we need to teach this very little thing. Let's just get the player moving. It's like, well, to do that, we need to do that. We need to teach this. Oh, why couldn't it be simple just to do? So I think for folks that are really new, you'll get a lot of education by getting in there and just making some games using whatever. And it's more than just, now I know how to use the engine. You need to start understanding what's good for the player, what's a fun experience, how do I have an idea and then turn it into reality, how do I get people to play the game and get feedback on it. So technical is one part of it, but also the craft of making a game is more than just software and technology.
But also there is so much there. There's so much there, even if it doesn't seem like there is. There's so much there that starting with the development and not worrying about the design is usually a better choice, because development is a technical skill. It's a binary skill. Can you make a platformer or can you not make a platformer, right? Like, do you have the skill to program or do you not? Do you have the artwork? Do you not? But design is so like, is it good? Is it the right shade of where it needs to be? Is it the perfect difficulty? Yeah. And those questions are way more complicated to answer than can the player jump, right? So focusing on development if you're new, and then getting to design later, I think is better. And that's why like making Tetris or chess or those kind of games as one of your first games makes a lot of sense, because you don't have to design anything new. You can just focus on the development, learning the engine and learning programming and stuff like that without having to wonder what you're creating. You can always tweak it too, right? Like, like Shotgun Chess just came out. I forget what that game's called, but I think it might be called Shotgun Chess. I don't remember. But it just came out like 2 days ago, and it's Shotgun King is what it's called. Let me show this because this is amazing. But this dude literally created chess, and then he's like, you know what? What if it's just chess with a shotgun? So all these guys move in a certain pattern, and it's just you have a shotgun.
Wow.
You should play chess with it.
Cool.
And this game's doing really well. So, you can always take that stuff and modify it later and make cool stuff with it.
I remember you just gave me a flashback for playing a game when I was quite a young lad. This is, I'm just trying to find it. Archon, 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 Archon game. I played on the Commodore 64, I think. Dude, it was just so cool. Basically, it's chess, but sound effects going. It's chess, but when you, let me just share my screen. Sorry, share my screen. This is totally not related to game jams, but it kind of is as well. It's chess, and you got your dude's chessboard, all the pieces, different colors have different meaning. The spots here have a thing. But when you bump into each other, when you take a piece, then you actually have a fight. So I don't know. Has anyone in chat played this game? I played it. I don't even want to know what date it is. It's going to show just how ancient I am. But you summon a monster. So the wizard guy summons a rock troll. God, it's at least 20 years ago since I played this game. And then you have this fight, and that one guy's super fast, and he's got this area effect. You bump into the guy. The other guy's got a big rock he throws. So it's just really awesome.
Do you manually control your character?
Yeah. In here, this fight, you're driving it around. So this is you doing it. It's just a little simple, not a twin stick shooter, but it's top down, up. So you're moving up, down, left, right, and just shooting. So that's a really simple mechanic that anyone can with a little bit of time to figure out, you can make up, down, left, right. That's pretty basic. Shooting, pretty basic. When two things bump into each other, pretty basic, and then you have a fight and a health bar. So like this game was genius in the day, and it's just awesome.
And this would be pretty easy to like recreate for a game jam, totally, right?
Yeah,
and you could have a really cool, interesting game.
Absolutely, with different. But see, the cool thing about this bird here, it's a double bird fight. When you in your fire, you can harm people, but you can't get harmed. So you're going to run up and then go flame, and the other person, if they know you're going to do it, they just kind of run away and then they attack you. So you get an opportunity to be make all these little gameplay fighting aspects: how you shoot, how you move, area of effect. This is like a pawn type guy. All he can do is run up and do his melee hit, but then the firebird just does its. So the skill is, how do I? It's kind of like the hard character versus the easy character, or the powerful versus the weak. How do I hopefully beat this guy when I'm weak? And I don't remember if the health persists. I can't remember that, but that'd be cool. We'll see if the health of the Firebird is low at the starting point. I think maybe it does. And then you've got, so you use some of the weak pieces to hopefully whittle down the tough piece. So showing for a few reasons. One, because you just showed chess, and I think this sort of game is easier to program the AI than chess. Chess AI that's a different beast. But here, the AI of just run around, move, and shoot, shouldn't be as hard. But making it as a 2-player game could be cool. So anyway, it's all about join, adapt, merging genres together, which I really like.
Yeah, and I think that's what game jams are amazing, right? Because you can smash any two things that you love together, right? You could just make cool stuff out of the stuff that you love. And it's going to be complicated at first, right? This is some people's first game jam, so like it's not always going to be easy. You're going to make a game that's not quite as good as you want. You're going to run into some challenges you didn't expect. But that's totally cool. If you stick with this is going to be one of the coolest things that you ever do, because there's so many games that I made that I'm so proud of that would have never existed without game jams. So highly recommend them.
Awesome. So any last questions in the chat? If anyone's watching live and you've got a question for us. If you're not watching live, then come join us next time and ask some questions.
While we're waiting for questions, I just want to remind everybody that Game Jam starts in 2 days and 21 hours. May 20th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And I also want to remind you that the voting ends the second the Game Jam starts. So, about 10 minutes before the Game Jam starts. So we'll tally the results. And there's a voting link in chat right now where you can vote on the theme. Make sure you vote for your favorite theme so we can get it going and make something super cool together.
Yes. So question, does everyone in a team have to sign up for the game jam, or just one person?
So the best way to do that is to have them create a page for your project and then add them as collaborators on the page. Realistically, you can just join the game jam and submit the game for the team. But because we're giving out free courses and we want to make sure that your whole team gets a course if they submit it, you want them to be listed as collaborators on your itch page. And that's simple to do once you edit the game page. You'll see it in the backend dashboard. So yeah, just if they want the free course, they have to be listed.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're looking for a team to join, then jump over on Discord. What's our Discord channel, Tim? Do you know, where people are looking for teams or asking about teams over on Discord? So GameDev.tv Discord. If you haven't joined it, then jump on over and do join it. Let me see if I can.
There is the collaborate channel, which is pretty cool. The other part is this community tab right here on the Game Jam page itself. So a lot of people are looking for teams here. And they're posting. We have over 50 topics here.
GameDev.tv/Discord for our Discord channel.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. But our collaborate channel is, oh, look at us. It's us. It's a cool little event from us. Oh, we're so cool. Nice. And I'm getting ready to post the giant list of resources that we talked about in the Q&A live channel chat.
Yep.
Sweet.
And if you're out there looking for a team to join, make sure you're specific about what you can bring to the conversation, what sort of role you're interested in. So you might say, I've been learning Unity for 3 months, and I'm okay at doing some basic programming. I'd be happy to do anything that's needed in terms of tuning the game, setting up levels, working on the audio, for example, whatever it might be. So make sure you tell people what you can do. And you've got to do more than just, I can bring some ideas. That's terrible. Like, on a team that's, say, 100, you need a couple of people who are just ideas. That's cool. That's great. On a team that's 1 or 2 or 3, you can't just be the idea person or the manager person. You've got to do something else as well. You've got to have a skill, whether that's art or programming, tuning, level design, whatever it might be. But be clear on what you can bring to the conversation, and also be clear on what sort of things you don't really want to work on. If there's any stuff you do or don't, or you're interested in. So give some parameters, be enthusiastic, be inspiring, and be willing to just do whatever for, whatever it takes to get the game done.
For sure. And yeah, someone said teams are scary. Teams are scary. And honestly, the best way to do it is to, have a team ahead of time of people But you know what? Having experience with a teammate in this can teach you what you don't want in a teammate or what you do want in a teammate, right? Like, you can have a good experience, if you can have a bad experience. Either way, like, it teaches you something, and you can make something cool.
Finding a teammate for a game jam is a little bit like online dating. You just kind of have to team up with someone and do a game jam. And even if after 3 days you're like, this person's an idiot, this is not going to work out, no, that's fine. You just, next time round, you just work with someone else. So yeah. The joy is that if they're not an idiot and they're awesome and you work well together, then you found a teammate that you can work with for other things. The other thing that I should have mentioned in the whole, here's how you market yourself, or to say, here's what I'm interested in, is let people know what your availabilities are and how much time and effort you're willing or able to put into the game jam. Some people might be saying, hey, let's go hardcore and put tons of time into it. And you might think, I've only got an hour on one of the weekends to contribute. So you've got to be really clear so that there's no misalignment of, dude, where are you? How come you haven't done anything? You need to be upfront about that.
Totally. We've got a question from Hyped on Coffee that says, what files need to be in the uploaded source? Is it just code assets? Do you have a git ignore for submissions? So ideally, you'd submit a compilable build, right? So that people could download it and compile it and understand how you did all this stuff. If you, for some reason, don't want to include certain assets or you're afraid people are going to steal them or whatever, you can exclude some stuff, but generally you want to include everything that is required to make the game work. So source code and that kind of things. But yeah, there's no hard requirement. There's no like specific requirement, but just we want everybody that creates the game to also be able to submit their source so that everybody else can kind of learn from that whole experience. Because there's some really cool games that get submitted, and as beginners, we all want to go through and look at those cool games and play them, but we also want to know how they did some stuff, and you can learn so much from seeing how somebody did some cool stuff. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Nice. Oh, I think we're both trying to.
Oh, I did it at the same time you did. Yeah.
Yep.
We got these
Cool,
fancy
awesome.
tools.
Yeah, we're slowly getting used to this interface and making our live cast slightly less terrible, slightly more professional. Fantastic. Hey, Tim, I think we've run out of time. I think that's enough. No matter what, it always just 90 minutes. No
Yeah,
matter how we try to slice and dice it, just 90. The world, maybe that's our attention span is 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's about when we get sick of each other. And we're just like, okay, we're done.
To hell with you, Tim Rustwick.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. And really, 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 truly, I'm so excited for the Game Jam. I'm going to be joining on Friday. Rick's going to be joining with his daughters. And just join the Game Jam. Be there. There is another live stream this week, Friday, 30 minutes before the Game Jam starts. So you'll probably get notified on Discord. I'm going to be live streaming. I don't know if Rick's going to make it. We'll see. It's a little early for Australia, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But, maybe. We'll see. But either way, there's going to be a live stream. We're going to announce the theme on the live stream. It's going to be super cool. I'm super excited about it. And we're going to get to work making our video game. They want to see Ben. Thank you. Okay, we'll pay attention to that. We'll see if Ben can come along.
Maybe we can convince Ben and Toby to join the Game Jam, and then they can come along and be on some of the live streams as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Have a lovely rest of your week. See you on the weekend where we start Game Jam excitement.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Oh, are we supposed to talk while we end the stream?
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk just so it doesn't.
We got to do the thing where it doesn't cut off the end of the video. So we got to just
talk for a minute.
Talk for stuff.
So it's like when the credits are rolling and the people at the newscasters are like,
is this a post-credit scene for our stream? Are we a cool Marvel movie right now?
Well, only if we had credit. Oh, this one. No, this isn't the cool bit.
No, this is okay.
No.
Well,
okay, cool. Right, yeah. I think we can turn it off now.